Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at the Oceanside Library on Long Island. It's been recently revamped.
Yeah, big project.
Exactly. And we've got this really interesting case study. It's from MDA Designgroup Architects and Planners. And it kind of gets into the nuts and bolts of the transformation. So our mission today really is to unpack the design thinking behind it all, especially the lighting, which sounds pretty innovative, how they took this, 1960s library and made it to this modern community hub.
It's a great example, actually, because this library, it serves, over 25,000 cardholders?
Wow.
Yeah, and houses like 258,000 items. Huge collection.
That's massive.
It really gives you a sense of the scale, right? And why getting this redesign just right was so important for the community.
Absolutely. And Elisabeth Martin, she's the principal at MDA Designgroup. She really stresses how vital the lighting was.
Right. It often is.
Yeah, she points out it's not just, about seeing the books. It's how light shapes the whole experience. Finding things, making the space feel inviting. The people space, as she calls it.
The people space. I like that.
Me too. And also how it helps the staff day to day. Okay, so let's dig in. What were the main goals they had for this renovation, and how did lighting fit into that picture?
Well, there were three really critical goals. First, the design had to look good, be beautiful, but also functional, and stay within budget. Always a challenge.
Always a challenge. Yeah.
Second, sustainability. Big focus on energy efficiency.
Makes sense.
And third, they wanted to bring in biophilic design principles. So thinking about user comfort, wellness, that kind of thing.
Okay, let's take that first one. Beautiful and budget friendly. That sounds tough. How do they manage that with the lighting?
So that's where their choice of supplier, USAI Lighting, really came into play.
Okay.
They apparently have a really expansive product offering and, crucially, a tiered pricing structure that gave MDA Designgroup flexibility.
So options at different cost levels.
Exactly. Elisabeth Martin actually said they chose USAI because they could get that architectural elegance, but at a more, let's say, economical cost. She specifically mentioned their Tier 2 line, the BeveLed Basic line.
BeveLed Basic, okay.
Yeah, apparently that was key for hitting the budget without sacrificing the look. It really shows, how strategic selection makes a difference.
Definitely. Smart choices. Okay, second goal, sustainability. Energy efficiency is huge now. How did the new lighting help there?
Yeah, it was a major priority. And USAI's platform, it's known for being pretty energy efficient.
Really?
So this wasn't just about cutting down the library's electricity bills, though that helps. It was also about, being responsible, making choices that align with the community's long-term sustainability aims.
Right, a broader impact. And the third one, biophilic design. That's about connecting with nature, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah. Bringing elements or feelings of the outdoors in.
So how does lighting do that? How does it make a space feel more, comfortable or well?
Well, what's interesting is how subtle changes in light affect us. USAI offers a lot of different color temperature options.
Right, like warmer or cooler light.
Exactly. And they were really careful about selecting temperatures that would complement the natural materials, the wood, the finishes used in the library.
Okay.
By kind of mimicking the feel of natural light, maybe warmer light in some areas, cooler in others, they could create an environment that just feels more inviting, more supportive of well-being.
So the lighting wasn't just functional. It was actively shaping the mood, the atmosphere.
Precisely. It was integral to achieving those overall renovation goals.
Okay, so another challenge they mentioned was balancing the overall ambient light, the general light, with more focused accent lighting. How do they tackle that?
Yeah, that's all about layering light. It's like creating different visual levels in the space.
Layering light. Yeah.
So, for example, in places like the checkout area and near the elevators, they created what they called loops of light.
Loops of light.
Yeah, using these specific fixtures, BeveLed 2.2, they have about a 4.5-inch opening, or aperture.
Right.
That size gives off a good amount of general ambient light, but it's not like overpowering or visually cluttered. It helps define those zones subtly.
Loops of light. That paints a picture.
It does, right? And it makes the space feel less flat, more dynamic. Then think about the areas near windows. People naturally gravitate there.
Sure, for the natural light.
Exactly. They called this the living edge. They used some pendant lights for visual interest. But the main workhorse for ambient light there was, again, those BeveLed 2.2 fixtures.
So consistency there.
Yeah, consistent, good quality light. Enough to read comfortably, but still maintaining that relaxed, inviting feel you want near a window.
Makes perfect sense. You want the artificial light to blend well with the natural light.
Yeah.
Okay, but the heart of a library, the stacks, the books, how do they light those effectively for, actually finding and reading titles?
Yeah.
Critical point, obviously. They needed really even lighting there. So they used a mix, again, those BeveLed 2.2 basic recessed downlights, the 4.5-inch ones,
Okay.
but also these things called micro multi-cell linear recessed fixtures. These are much narrower, like only a 1.25-inch aperture.
Oh, tiny.
Yeah, very slim. And because they're narrow, you can aim them more precisely, get the light right onto the book spines, nice and even.
Oh, that makes sense.
And they chose a specific light quality, 3000 K color temperature, which is sort of a balanced natural white, and a CRI color rendering index of over 80.
CRI. Right, that's about how true the colors look.
Exactly. So a high CRI means the book covers look vibrant and accurate, text is easy to read, no more squinting at the bottom shelf.
That's a huge improvement for usability, I bet.
Definitely.
What about the main pathways, the corridors, getting people around the library smoothly?
Similar approach there, actually. They use a combination of those BeveLed 2.2s and the micro multi-cell linears again.
Keep it consistent.
Right. These areas might have lower seating nearby or lower bookshelves. The idea was just a welcoming, well-lit flow, encouraging people to move through and maybe pause to browse. That consistent fixture use helps tie the whole library together visually.
Okay. Now, libraries these days aren't just books. They often have theaters or multi-use rooms. Did Oceanside have one?
They did, yes. And lighting a theater space has its own unique needs.
Right, you don't want it too bright during a show.
Exactly. Elisabeth Martin had a great quote on this. She said something like, in a theater, you don't want it too bright, but you absolutely need enough light for safety when people are coming in or going out.
Safety first, yeah.
So the key word was flexibility. They used dimmable USAI fixtures.
Dimmers, makes sense.
Yeah, so they could crank up the light for entry and exit, keep everyone safe. But then during a presentation or movie, they could dim them way, way down. She mentioned getting them down to just 0.1% brightness.
Wow, 0.1%. That's practically off.
Almost. But just enough for minimal orientation, creating that real immersive feel without total darkness. That's some serious control.
That's really smart. Very adaptable. What about the teen spaces? They usually need a different vibe, right? More dynamic.
Definitely. And in this library, the teen area sounds like it has a ton of natural light. Lots of glass bay windows, sliding doors, glass walls.
Right.
So the challenge for the artificial lighting was to work with that natural light, supplement it when needed, evenings, cloudy days.
Balance it out.
Right. So they used these USAI LittleOnes Micro fixtures. Again, that really small 1.25-inch aperture, very discreet.
Those tiny ones again?
Yeah. They put them specifically in each of the 3 bay windows. Because they're so small, they kind of disappear into the custom wall and ceiling treatments they had there.
So you barely notice the fixture itself.
Exactly. They blend right in, but they provide that crucial balance, ensuring the space feels bright and inviting even when the sun isn't flooding in, subtly supporting the natural light.
Very clever integration. Now, you mentioned different ceiling types earlier. Wood strips, planks, regular drywall, acoustic tiles. That must have made installing the lights tricky.
Oh, absolutely. Integrating lighting cleanly into diverse ceiling materials is always a headache for designers.
I can imagine.
But this is where, again, the breadth of the USAI platform was apparently a big help. Because many of their different fixture types are designed to have a consistent look below the ceiling.
The part you actually see.
Right. The part you see looks similar, even if the housing above the ceiling is different, to work with wood or drywall or whatever. This allowed them to get a really subtle, unified look across all those different areas.
That's smart design. Makes it feel cohesive.
Totally. Creates visual consistency, even with varied architecture overhead.
Was it just about the products, though? The case study mentioned collaboration.
Good point. No, it wasn't just the fixtures themselves. The technical team at USAI apparently worked really closely with MDA Designgroup, making sure everything would integrate perfectly, seamlessly into all those, sometimes specialized ceiling systems. That kind of teamwork between the manufacturer and the architect is often crucial for complex jobs like this.
Yeah, that partnership makes a big difference. It sounds like Elisabeth Martin might have had a personal favorite fixture among all the ones used.
She did mention one specifically, yeah, those micro multi-cell downlights. the narrow 1.25-inch ones.
The tiny ones again, they seem popular.
They do. She liked how easily they installed within the wood slat ceilings they had in some areas. And because they're so visually quiet, so understated,
Right.
it allowed some of the more prominent, maybe sculptural or decorative light fixtures in the library to really stand out and take center stage.
So a kind of visual hierarchy. Some lights do the background work, others are the stars.
Exactly that. Foundational lighting versus feature lighting.
So putting it all together,
Mm-hmm.
what was the overall verdict? How did this carefully planned lighting scheme turn out?
Well, the case study really frames it as a success. They met that challenge of seamless integration across all the different spaces and ceilings,
Right.
and the result is a space where the lighting genuinely enhances both the architecture and how people use the library. It's vibrant, functional, and actually the project won a Lighting Design Award from the AIA Long Island chapter.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's serious recognition.
It really is. It speaks volumes about the quality of the design. The case study sums up the key benefits they got from the USAI platform: the energy efficiency, the great dimming capabilities, those minimal profiles we talked about, high performance, good CRI, all contributing factors.
It sounds like they achieved that balance they were aiming for.
I think so. They created this beautifully lit, really elegant space that feels cohesive, especially that they mention the welcome desk area. There's apparently a nice interplay there between a more eye-catching curvy fixture and those quieter workhorse BeveLed 2.2s doing their job subtly in the background. A memorable effect.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, it seems pretty clear the Oceanside Library renovation was a really thoughtful project. And the lighting wasn't an afterthought. It was absolutely critical.
Totally central to the transformation.
Yeah, turning it into this modern, welcoming place for the community. It's just a fantastic example of balancing aesthetics, budget, sustainability, user comfort, all those practical needs.
And how innovative products like the USAI range here can help meet really diverse needs and integrate smoothly into the building's architecture.
Exactly. It really shows how a well-executed lighting plan can just elevate the whole experience of a public space. Makes it more functional, sure, but also more inviting, maybe even inspiring.
Couldn't agree more.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Mhm.
About the lighting in the spaces you use every day. How does it make you feel? What choices might be behind that? Maybe, just take a second today to actually notice the lighting around you.
Good point.
Maybe even look up some other examples in your own community. See how lighting has changed public spaces near you. It's often those subtle things, the design choices we don't always consciously register, that actually make the biggest difference to how we feel in a space.